Hello, Susan. You're muted. Yeah, I can't hear you. There you go. Oh. I still can't hear you. You might have to come back in and come out of the room.
No.
Oh, there we go. I can hear you now.
You can hear me now? Okay, yeah. I took the earphones off. You'll get. I can mute myself if noise background is too bad.
Yeah. Sometimes the earphone thing, kind of wreaks havoc on this meet thing because I've had my earphones in and then you have to.
Okay. All right.
It up,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
So you've.
We're going to look at it a little bit in the meeting.
Okay. I'm actually hoping to get, maybe I should go get my ball. I have an interesting idea, and I think it's fairly feasible. So I'll go get my ball.
Okay.
Can you see the ball? See the ball?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
It's one of those children's toys. But then I ran across some nice microscopes on Amazon, and then you plug them into your USB, and you can get a 200 times magnification with them.
Oh, wow.
And they're only a 3 megapixel, and I did ask the manufacturer if they could go higher, and they didn't think so, and that's probably because of the optics.
Yeah.
But this is the microscope. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. It's like a lipstick camera almost.
Well, it's just like a pencil almost.
Yeah, pencil.
So, you take this and you put this inside like this.
Yeah.
And you have your, you can make this, because it has a light on it, you can, could make this into a stand for your egg and take a picture of the bottom of it and then put some around the outside.
Wow.
With this. And then it required this to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Tom, this. See my ball? There.
It's a bucket ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ball with microscope stuck all the way around it. Yeah. I'm tired of things that move. I'm getting really tired of them. So, partly because I'm making something that moves for my thesis.
What are you making?
I'm making something that jiggles the egg so that I can check its viscoelasticity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so so far I have a piezoelectric device, and I'm hooking it up. I guess I've got it here. Can you see that? See there? There it is. And apparently it'll lift 200 pounds.
Oh.
Which is Texas Instrument thing, the piezoelectric. Anyway, I've got to get it moving, so to speak, hook it up. It can take up to 75 volts. So, anyways, just describing this thesis project. So, it's starting off with a piezoelectric device, and then it's moving on to maybe ultrasound. I don't know for sure if the piezoelectric device will work. I'll use it. Like I say, I'm getting tired of moving things. And since Dick's here, he's not watching.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Oh, you are watching. Okay, well, here's this ball, and here's this microscope. And there you go. I'm going to make one of these just because I have a whole bunch of these lovely pencil microscopes, 200 times magnification.
Wow.
And they're self-illuminating, so you can actually set the egg on top of it. And you'll be able to see it because of the light. How many lights? I think there's about 8 around the end. So it's very nice. If I had another USB port, I could turn it on the light, sort of do. Anyway, all kinds of things to do.
Yeah.
First, I have to put this piezoelectric.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's quite
Oh,
bright.
yeah, you can see the edge. Around the edge, it's illuminated, or...
Yeah, it's illuminated, and if you put something about a millimeter away from it, it'll do its magnification and you can actually see it. These are, I just sort of went, wow, you guys, when did you invent this? But I guess they're sort of recent. People are looking for hobby devices, so,
Oh, yeah.
and etc. So they're sold on Amazon with the stand. 144 Canadian right now. They used to be $86 Canadian. The price went up.
That's probably a big demand.
Probably, yeah. Well, I bought them from the source, and they said, we can get them to you for $50. Well, they were $60 by the time I paid all the tariff charges and shipping, but anyways, yeah.
Well, it was good, yeah. So when are you planning to do that over the next couple of years, or maybe the next year?
Yeah, it depends on, I asked the university to 3D print me a buckyball thing, and, they're closed right now, so yeah, so it's sort of whenever, but it could be a student project. I thought it was a good student project, so I had a couple of professors actually from civil engineering agree with me, so.
Oh, good. It's good to get buy-in, I guess.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter what brand of engineering, just so long as they make it.
Yeah.
I have the microscopes. I'll bring them.
Yeah. So welcome to the meeting. I see you have quite a few people here today. I just wanted to tell you kind of our agenda here. So Ujjwal, I think, is going to give a presentation today. Are you ready to do that today? Okay, yeah. So he's going to give a presentation, and then we're going to go over Susan's data that she sent me in the mail on a USB drive, and I've been able to just kind of look through it and briefly just do some exploratory, just looking at it, and then maybe we'll discuss, how to move forward on that. And then I wanted to give a couple quick updates about there's a paper that just came out I wanted to quickly discuss, and then a quick update on education stuff. So first of all, are there any comments or things that people want to announce before we start?
I'm going to shut off my video feed, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that'll help the meeting.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay, so if we don't have any, like, you can comment after, but I think we'll start with Ujjwal's presentation. So this was something that he discussed in Slack, on OpenWorm Slack, about efficient nets, and he said he could present on it. So do you have your screen? Can you share your screen as well?
Oh, is it visible?
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay, there it's up. Okay, there we go. All right.
So today I'm going to discuss a little bit about what are the efficient nets. Like these are questions comes in the DevoWorm group, like how the efficient net is better than or maybe not better than the mobile net and this net things. So I thought like we can do a little presentation on it. So basically, efficient net since like Alex, it is based something like on AlexNet. AlexNet is something which won 2012 ImageNet competition. CNN, it is a CNN-based network, convolutional neural network-based model, and have become a de facto algorithm for a wide variety of tasks in deep learning for computer vision. From 2012, like everyone is just taking up the data and trying to put it on convolutional networks and trying to get better and better results. But the point is like EfficientNet has started something new. It is presented in last. It is presented in last year ICM. It is presented in last year ICML 2019 conference. So it is also a CNN based approach, but it beats the state of the art model which is currently existing. But the major point is it is smaller and faster than the model which is previously holds the position of state of the art model. It focuses mainly on how to ramp up CNN model in more structured way, and the basic question is like it beats the mobile net and ResNet by around 10x margin, but is it still better? Like, what is the current scenario of it and how it can go to help the purpose of image analysis and all these stuff. So EfficientNet, it not only focuses on improving the accuracy, but it also focuses on the efficiency of model. This is something which comes new. Like everyone after 2012 is trying to add more and more layers. It is trying to add parameters to get more and more good results. But they have taken a step back. They said like we are not going to improve accuracy, but our focus is on efficiency of model. And when they try to improve the efficiency of models, they ultimately get improved accuracy, which in fact beats the state of the art. So this whole efficient net is based on how the scaling of CNN models is done. So first of all, let us discuss like what scaling even thing is. So scaling is generally done to improve model's accuracy on a certain task. For example, in this case, ImageNet classification. Uh, People like we have a lot of computation power nowadays, so people don't really care about what type of how much we should put on the CNN model, how much layer should we put on in the CNN model so that we can get good results. They just try to add and add because in theoretical manner, we can say like adding more layers will improve the results, which is not always the case in the real world scenario. So there are basic three dimensions of scaling in CNN: depth, width, and resolution. We are going to learn about it as we go through the presentation. So the three dimensions of CNN: depth, width, and resolution. In the depth, it simply means how many deep networks is in which equivalent to the number of layers in it. Like you are adding the layers and you are increasing the depth of the model. Width simply means how wide the network is. And measure of width, for example, is number of channels in the correlation layer, where resolution is simply the image resolution that is being passed to a CNN. As we can see, I have given a little resolution is simple image resolution, like it doesn't mean anything fancy here. So this is the image which is taken from the paper. So here you can see like what kind of resolution, what kind of parameter scaling can you do. Weight scaling is basically you are increasing the width of the layer each time, and depth scaling is increasing more and more layers. Resolution is taking a good quality of or higher quality of data. And what this paper proposes is something called compound scaling. It is taking care of all the three type of scaling in one go. So depth scaling. If we want to talk about depth scaling particularly, so depth scaling is the most common way to scale up a model. Just keep adding the layers to increase the depth of model and vice versa decrease it. Examples are like ResNet 200 is a depth scale version of ResNet 50, and similarly ResNet 18 is a scaled down version of ResNet 50. Scaling a network by depth can be as scaled down by adding and removing layers, and the intuition in that deeper network can capture richer and more complex features. Like adding more and more layers is easier said than done. Theoretically, as I've discussed before, if we add more and more layers, the network performance should improve practically. But it doesn't follow in the real world scenario. Like every time, it is not like you have 10 layer model, you have maybe 25 layer, and the result will increase or improve drastically. It doesn't happen in real world. So even if we avoid some gradient to vanish as well as some techniques to make the turning smooth, adding more and more layer doesn't always help. So, for example, if we take a ResNet 1000 model which has 1000 layers and a ResNet 100 model which has 100 layers, they almost give similar results. Only difference is like ResNet 1000 is going to take much and much computational power. Width. So width is another parameter of scaling. It is not so common used. Like it is like making each convolution layers wider. Wider network tends to be able to capture more fine-grained features, and this makes the smaller models easier to train. Now the problem is like even if you make your network extremely wide, the shallow models accuracy saturates quickly. Like if your model is very wide and you are taking the features, so it can very gradually saturate, and with a very within 4 or 5 years, let's say, it will saturate completely and results stops improving. So we can do that with scaling before we look into it, but there are other dimensions which we have to keep in mind while doing with uh, while doing the increasing of width parameter. Resolution. Intuitively, like we can say, like in the high resolution image, the features are more fine grained, and hence high resolution image works better. Uh, they are difficult to handle because it takes space if you have a high resolution picture. This is also one of the reasons why it is a complex task, like object detection. We use resolution like 300 by 300, 512 by 500, and 600 by 600. But it doesn't scale linearly. The accuracy gain diminishes very quickly. For example, as you can see in the diagram which is taken from the same paper, EfficientNet, the resolution from 500 plus 500 to 560 cross 560 doesn't yield significant improvements. Like scaling up the baseline model, which is this one, with the different network width and depth, you can see there is not very significant improvement in that. So what is combined scaling? Combined scaling is basically scaling two or more parameters simultaneously. Exactly what EfficientNet targeted. It says like we are not going to do something called depth, like uh, blindly increasing depth of the model or blindly increasing the width of the model. Like in the computation power which we have right now, it doesn't matter. But still, they try to they try to do make a more efficient model rather than making a model which is not so efficient but has multiple layers. So this is what they targeted. This is the parameters basically EfficientNet uses in the combined scaling. In As the depth increases, the larger perspective receptive fields can capture similar features that include more pixels in an image. Also, as the width is increased, more fine-grained feature will be captured. To validate this intuition, the author ran a number of experiments with the different scaling values for each dimensions, which he has set manually. For example, as shown in the previous figure, uh, the deeper and the higher resolution weight scaling achieves much better accuracy than the same flop cost. Under the same flop cost. So these are the proposed compounding scale that we have given. So here phi is user specified coefficient that controls how many resources are available, whereas alpha, beta, and gamma specify how to assign these resources in the network depth, width, and resolution. In CNN, convolution layers are most expensive part. The convolution layer are the most compute expensive part of the network. Also, flops of a regular convolutional operation is almost proportional to depth, width square, and resolution square. That is, doubling the depth will doubling the flops, while doubling the width resolution increases the flop almost by 4 times. Hence, in order to make sure that total flops don't exceed 2 raised to the power 5, the constraint does apply. We can talk a little bit about EfficientNet architecture. So scaling doesn't change the layer operation, hence it is better to have a good baseline network and then scale it along different dimensions using proposed compound scaling. The author obtained their base network by doing a neural architecture search that optimizes both accuracy and flop. Now, as they have the base network, they can search for the optimal values for the scaling parameters. If we can revisit the equation, which we have seen there, uh, if we revisit the saturation restriction that we have put, so we can say that we can realize that we have a total 4 parameter search for that are alpha, beta, gamma, and phi. In order to make search spaces smaller and making the search operation less costly, the search for these parameters can be completed like in 2 steps. Fix phi equals to 1. That's a simple and the most previous method. Assuming that twice more resources are available and do a small gate search for alpha, beta, gamma. For the baseline network, let's say beta naught is our coefficient. It turned out that the optimal values are alpha 1.2, beta is 1.1, and gamma is 1.15. These are some results which I am iterating, which are being provided in the paper. So architecture, the effectiveness of, if we talk about architecture, the effectiveness of model scaling also relies heavily on the baseline network. So to further improve the performance, they have deployed a new baseline network by performing neural architecture search, which optimizes both accuracy and flops. The resulting architecture uses mobile inverted bottleneck convolution networks, which is similar to mobile net and MNAS-net, but is slightly larger due to increased flop budget. Then they scale up the baseline network to obtain a family of models, and this architecture basically they call efficient. So now, like, what are the advantages and drawbacks with compared to ResNet and mobile net? This is something which came last year in ICML conference, so it is not so well detailed. Also, mobile nets are there for around 4 to 5 years, so many people have taken these models, they have adjusted their parameter values to make it a broad range model which can operate on multiple or different type of data sets. Same with ResNet. This is something new, so right now it is focused on ImageNet network. Also in the inverse resolution step, it saturates the weight which is given to an image. For example, if we have a higher resolution picture, it has different type of data that we can collect from it. So these type of data, input data, provide different kind of outputs. And in the mobile net and ResNet, people used to give them different points or marks, whatever you like to say, to each net, to each feature that it gets from an image. In EfficientNet architecture, right now they are all formalized, they are all same. Like they are giving all the features the same score. So it is something which make it more peculiar right now, but and we have to adjust the parameters of the models manually. But I think as the people start searching on EfficientNet and start using it more and more, the model will increase significantly and it can outperform both mobile net and this net. Google has also started providing EfficientNet on Google Cloud platform. It is known as AutoML MNAS framework. I will drop the link. You can check it out. So it is just like a playground for this mobile network where you can do different sort of parameter adjusting and different sort of data set you can upload and check it, like whether EfficientNet is increasing your model efficiency or not. So I guess this is the I am about the time. This is the end of presentation. If anyone has any question, like,
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ujjwal. It was a good presentation. I know we had last summer. I think we had discussed depth of deep learning networks, and sort of the advantages and disadvantages of that depth. So, like going deeper versus really deep versus a shallow network. And so I think we talked about like how it's generally advantageous, but there's like an increase in the error rate depending on the way it's implemented. So the scaling, I mean, that's a problem in a lot of areas of science. So they don't know they don't recommend any scaling parameters. They just say you can basically build architectures and search for the scaling parameters. Is that basically what they're saying, or?
like basically they are saying like in not the most of the people right now doing is increasing the depth width and separately, like either they increase width or either they increase depth. What they are saying is by doing these type of steps you are killing the efficiency of model, and if you try to increase the efficiency of model, they are saying the results will also increase, which is something like after whenever the computation power which we have start increasing, people start ignoring it. Like people are just pushing and pushing more and more layers in the network, more increasing the depth of the network rapidly. So they are saying like, yes, we have presented this model to you, which takes your data, analyze the width, depth, and resolution of the images, analyze the model, and gives you some parameters for alpha, beta, and gamma, which I have discussed in this slide. And these are the optimal values for this model, which you can apply and get the best result out of your dataset.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So it's really about like how do you best use your computational resources.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so then you can get better performance given that. Because I mean, we don't think about it too much. Early years of computer science, people were concerned, even obsessed about using memory, efficiently because they didn't have a lot of it. But of course, for deep learning models, we don't have infinite memory, and so it'd be good to be able to use things efficiently.
Yes.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Anyone else?
I had a question. Are there plans to put this into open source libraries, or is it still theoretical? They're still considering that?
Oh yes, I guess they have already deployed their model in the AutoML Google Cloud. I will drop the link like right now. And also they have a GitHub repository for the EfficientNet. Yeah, this is the EfficientNet implementation in Python. If you like to see, I will drop it. So this is the EfficientNet implementation in Python. Like you can see, you can play with it around, and also Google at the Google Cloud. I will drop the link in the mail to Bradley sir. They have also made a proper portal in AutoML for EfficientNet so that people can come and learn about like how these things work.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Okay, yeah, thanks again, Ujjwal. And I can, if you can send me the slides afterwards, I can make them available. Maybe if there's a paper, I don't know what the paper was associated with this, but I think it's in our Slack channel. So if you want to check out the DevoWorm Slack channel, or else I can send it in an email as well. So, okay, thank you, Ujjwal. Now I want to move on to some other things here. The first, actually, why don't I move on to the education thing first? So I know that Richard and I talked about putting the embryo physics course materials up online. So the embryo physics course was a course that was taught as a sort of an online thing where you'd get people to come into Second Life and give a presentation. They were lectures that were online, and people would present a slideshow, and they'd show up in their avatars, and they'd present to a bunch of people sitting in a little virtual camp, and then the talks would be online in perpetuity. But they're on a server that's sort of temporary. It was one of the organizers of the course who, put them up there, and who knows if they're going to remain up there. So I've been taking them and putting them into a GitHub repository, and then not really designing a class around them, but putting them into a classroom sort of infrastructure. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today for the education stack. So this is my other organization here, Orthogonal Research, and we do like research, but we also do educational activities. And so what we've done is we've created a education stack, and it's really evolved over the last year or so, where we're doing this virtual learning. And so here's a map of sort of how this works. We have a number of different digital assets that we're using. Getter, Hypothesis, YouTube. I'll explain what those are in a minute. But we're basically putting 4 courses up in this infrastructure. So the OpenWorm DevoWorm curriculum, which if you attended the first meeting of the year, you know what that is. That was developed last year in conjunction with the Mozilla Open Leaders program. And so there's a whole curriculum based on sort of teaching people about development, teaching people about digital modeling, and it's all in this set of lessons on GitHub, hosted on GitHub, but then they're also hosted on these other platforms, and I'll show you how those relate in a minute. Also DevoWorm ML, which of course if you were here last fall, you know what this is. This is the machine learning education, so it combines biological modeling, machine learning, and then some good old-fashioned sort of biological data analysis. Topics in embryo physics, which is the embryo physics seminar. So these are a series of seminars, and I'm still working on how they might be presented, and we can talk more in depth about that. It's still kind of early days for it. I'm still kind of getting things kind of transferred over, but we still need to format it and figure out how it might be best presented to a broader audience. And then Frontiers in Open Methodology, which is something I've been working on with another group, but it's basically different methodologies for doing open science, and then those are hosted in the same way on GitHub and these other tools. So this is how they're all related. So you have, I was using a different platform here, but what happened was that platform disappeared like a couple months ago, and I didn't even know about it. It was called Iliotomy, and it was like a MOOC platform where you would host a course, and you would have the materials that you would link to for people, and they could enroll in the course and chat with people about the homework projects and discuss things with the instructor, and it was all integrated. But that went away just sort of suddenly. I didn't even know about it, like I said. And then I found out, and then I was scrambling last week to figure out what kind of platform I could use. So I've kind of come up with this sort of constellation of tools. So the whole thing is, like I said, the lessons themselves, the materials are hosted on GitHub. The way I have it set up for the OpenWorm DevoWorm curriculum, for example, is that I have like stubs in GitHub, and those are like hosted as markdown files. So it's like you go there and it's like a syllabus. So you go through it and you pick a lesson, and the lesson might be on YouTube. It might be hosted natively on GitHub, or it might be a badge, a micro credential hosted on BadgeList. And I think a lot of you know what badges are. I'm not going to go too much into that. But the idea is that you would engage with each of these things, and then you could submit lessons, like, you would review the material, and then there'd be some assignment, and then you would submit the assignment on GitHub. So it would be like a push to the repository. So you'd say, I'm going to go through this, I'm going to go to GitHub, and I'm going to view this course, and I'm going to select a lesson that I'm interested in. And the lesson might be hosted on GitHub as a series of files, or BadgeList as a badge, or YouTube as a video. And I'm going to interact with the assignment, and I'm going to submit something. And that submission could happen either through GitHub, or if you're doing a badge through BadgeList, and then you can submit to GitHub later if that's what we call for in the assignment. So all those things are here, but they're all kind of scattered. Google Classroom then is what I use to replace Iliotomy, and the reason I'm using Google Classroom here to integrate all of these is because it allows people to enroll in the course and then access everything that you could access through GitHub. But it's like it's a course management system where you can actually keep track of people, and you can keep track of their assignments. So it's still kind of scattered. I mean, you're going to have maybe some people doing things through GitHub, maybe some through Google Classroom, maybe some through BadgeList. But at least, in this way, you can track who's actually pursuing the course and, doing assignments. And then, you can further verify that through BadgeList or GitHub. And you can evaluate their work and maybe give them some sort of credit in the organization. These aren't accredited courses; they're just maybe casual learning. That's what we're aiming for. But I think the idea also is you want to keep track of what people are doing, so you can interact with them, or they can follow up with your organization if they want to contribute. There are different ways to reward people for certain courses and so forth. So we won't get into that contribution model, but that's basically the model for learning. But then there are also a couple other tools that are sort of on top of Google Classroom that augment this. So Iliotomy had a chat function which you could communicate with course mates, and that's of course an essential part of education. And so to make this integrated, I've started some channels on something called Gitter. And so Gitter, I think some of you have used it before for DevoWorm, but it's a chat platform where you have channels, and then you post a message in the channel and people respond to you. The advantage of using Gitter here is that it's integrated with GitHub here, so that there's an integration of materials and of messages and things like that. So it's integrated in one way, not with Google Classroom directly, but with GitHub. And then the other tool is this interactive note-making tool called Hypothesis. And I don't know how many of you have used this. it's a so you plug it into a Chrome browser if you use Chrome. If you don't use Chrome, I think you can still use it through other means. But you go to their website, which is hypothesis.is. So it's this word. Just type it into your browser, and you go to the site. And it's like a downloadable. It basically allows you to annotate web pages. So I can annotate any web page I want. I visit a web page, I can put an annotation on the page, and then when people visit that page, if they have this tool, they can view the notes. So this is actually something I pioneered in the OpenWorm DevoWorm curriculum, where they would go to a stub on GitHub and they would look at the lesson, and then there would be notes put on the page so that you would see, okay, I loaded the page, this is the lesson, there are 8 notes here, and the notes might range from like, this is a nice lesson, to some problem they had with it, to some question they had about the curriculum. And they're all just kind of, arranged there from different users. And so it's a way to sort of annotate your experience. Something, you couldn't do before with, I used this before with the Oleotomy, but it's something that's not integrated into a lot of MOOC platforms, because the MOOC platforms, really, I tried other MOOC platforms and they weren't very good at this sort of scale I wanted to get at with these courses. And so that's where I'm going with this sort of thing. And I'm going to incorporate the embryo physics materials into this. Like I said, it's pretty casual education. They're not paying for anything, and they're not really getting a grade. They're not, being certified necessarily, but they're learning something, and there's like a little bit of formality to it in terms of who's learning what. It's good to know who's engaging with the material and maybe how you can make their experience a little bit better, because, it's hard really to get a good handle on how to, present educational materials, and that's why we have a bunch of people in education departments studying this. It's because it's very hard to get at, like, how to teach and how to, like, get people to learn things and have it really be fulfilling. So hopefully this works out. Then this is an example of it here. It's optimized for Firefox. It's not great in at least this is the platform. This is the Google Classroom platform, I should say. It's not great in Chrome, but it's better in Firefox. But you can use it in Chrome. And so it's set up like this. You come into the you have a series of lessons or a series of courses that are listed. Then you go into a course, and this is one of the courses. So this is the OpenWorm DevoWorm curriculum, and you have your little banner here. You have the stream, which is like where you have messages and things that have been contributed. You have the coursework tab, which is, and I know it's hard to see, but where you have the actual assignments or the actual modules listed. So for OpenWorm DevoWorm curriculum, it's all of these stubs on GitHub sort of organized in this way. And in this way, we can, give people, they can go to a lesson, they can go to all the resources. So this is not just from GitHub, this is also the badges. So these are the micro-credentials here for development from badge list. And they're integrated with the lessons from GitHub. So these different modules here. And then you can add YouTube videos into this mix as well. So you could say, here's a YouTube video, and then give them instructions on what to do with it, how to maybe submit an assignment. I haven't completed this yet, but there are options for adding things into the curriculum. Then there's a people tab, which tells you the people in the course, and then the grades, which that's something that I think if you're using like this for elementary education or collegiate education, it actually is an important tab, but we're not worried about that so much right now. So that's the thing I wanted to talk about, the education stack. I just wanted to give an update on that. If you have any thoughts about that, let me know. Let me see what the comments are here. Okay, we can take submissions on Classroom as well. Okay. Yeah, and then that's the link to the Hypothesis site. And then this is okay. That's EfficientNet. So we have we have a bunch of different things now, and it's being integrated. So I'll keep updating. Tom, you had a comment?
Yeah, if you are still interested in Moodle, which I noticed because I set one up recently on an Amazon instance.
Yeah.
For like less than $10 a month, you can run an instance in Amazon Micro Instance. It does have badges apparently integrated into Moodle now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, like I could show you. Here's the instance I set up because I'm attempting to get a tutoring business.
Oh yeah.
Going. So yeah, it was a bit of challenge to get it going, but just in case you're interested in knowing about that, maybe Google Classrooms does everything that you want. But,
oh, dialectic learning.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's my tutoring business, which is in its fledgling mode,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we should definitely talk about this. I mean, the only reason I didn't use Moodle was a bit much for what I wanted. I just kind of wanted something basic as like a skin for the whole thing. But I mean, yeah, it might be good to, eventually. It depends on the, if it's something that if it's like really successful, then we, could move it to Moodle. But,
yeah. Well, I didn't explore the badges, but I saw there's badges in the thing, so I thought,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing here too is we already have existing badges, kind of badgeless. So, moving them over.
Yeah. Right.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Any comments from like Jesse or Dick or anyone else?
I would just say it looks interesting. Obviously, I kind of think about that because my own frontier map stuff. But I was looking at Google Classrooms for some more things, and one of my friends is I've been looking into making an online course, basically one of my friends. So I'll probably will talk about some of those things later. But it's interesting to see all of it together, the ecosystem. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, if there's any feedback again, we can talk about it. I mean, I just kind of came up with this. I mean, that's what I came up with during the Mozilla Open Leaders program. So it's like that was the sort of the template I was using. There are probably more efficient ways to do this. Without you don't want to. I didn't want to go for something that's really for scaled up classrooms. Like big time MOOCs, because some of the MOOCs, of course, are very large. Thousands and thousands of students, but that's not necessarily what we're aiming for here. At least not right now. I mean. Okay. I just wanted. Okay, so now I think we'll go to the Axolotl data, and we can talk about this offline too if you want. Let's see, the Axolotl data. So Susan's here. So I haven't had a chance to really dig really deeply into this, but I do have some animated GIFs to show you. So Susan sent me these data, and these are of her flipping microscope, where she takes an axolotl embryo, and the microscope flips it it flips it on its end, so that the whole thing flips in a liquid medium, and you get this full view of the embryo. And so she sent me some images, and there are a lot of different shots of these embryos, and they're they come down to a single view of the embryo that's like about maybe 9 or 10 images deep. So like you get this process of flipping. What does Vinay have to say here? Last year I worked on some assignments for badges. It was a good and nice way for someone new to get both theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. Yeah, that's what we were aiming for with the badges. So we'll, this is a little bit more in depth than the badges, but badges are good. So anyways, let me go back to the axolotl data. So you get these these sequences of about 9 or 10 images that sort of characterize this flipping process. So this is one of the GIFs that I created here. Hope this works on this platform. Okay, there it is. So this is just at a speed, at a typical speed. We can slow it down. We have the component images of this, but you can see that it's this side and then it flips over. And then
it flips over and then self-rights itself, so you take pictures as it turns back around to the top.
Okay.
Those look nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to get it like this so I could visualize what was going on with the process. So, I mean, these are the images. I can't stop the GIF. I should have made a movie of it, but you can see that there are these cells here, and you can see the boundaries, and you can see that there's one side and then this other side. And one of the advantages here is that you can see, kind of a little bit you can actually get some depth information out of these images. So this is a series of images here, maybe about 7 or 8 images in sequence, and they're all sort of aligned, so they're all in like the identical reference frame. So it's not like you have to align them too much. You can see that they're sort of in sequence. So now we have this embryo that we can define. It's moving a little bit, but you can get the cells and you can align sort of the boundaries of the cells over time as it's moving. You can maybe correct for that, but you have a pretty good view of the whole thing. So you have this depth information, you have these sides of the embryo and so forth. So now, so that's the images that we have, and we have the sequence. Now the next step is to try to segment the images somehow and maybe create a visualization paradigm for it, where we talked about using sort of a Google Maps type approach, where you have like the surface of the embryo spread out, and you can search the surface, different frames on the surface. I can't remember exactly the details on that, but that was one of the things we talked about. But there are other options as well. Now we've been talking about using machine learning for some of these, some segmentation stuff and some other analyses. So, this might be a good opportunity to apply some of this computation to this data set. And there are a lot of images here. I just showed you a couple examples, but there's a lot of data that I have. I don't have a number on it. I mean, some kind of vector model. A vector model might be useful here. We'd have to talk more about how to model the surface of it. So now we have from those images you get depth information. You could create a skeletonized version of it, and then build a model around that. I mean, there's a lot of different options, I guess. The Google Earth approach. So yeah, the Google Earth approach is where we have it sort of as a 2-dimensional map. So if you're familiar with how they make like flat maps of the Earth, you know that the Earth is a sphere. It's a slightly oblong sphere. But they take the surface of the Earth, they take it off of that sphere, and they flatten it out. And the flattening introduces a mathematical transformation, or you have to use a mathematical transformation to flatten it out. And so you take the curvature out, and you have it as a flat representation. That means that somewhere in the map you have to make distortions. So there are different projections of the Earth, of the surface of the Earth, that are based on just projecting that spherical information to flat information. There actually are models that minimize that distortion. So there are maps that are, one's called the Dymaxion map, which is, I don't know if you've seen the Google Earth as 3D. Well, yeah, there's but you have this, if you want to scroll across it, it's a 2-dimensional surface. But we can do as a 3D model too. I mean, we can do that type of thing.
Yeah, 3D model of it, the whole surface.
Well, yeah, I guess we could do that. We could have you could have like you could zoom in on different parts of it. But there are a lot of options here. I don't know, like, we could build a 3D model, like, with a wireframe model and then put information on it that way too. It's not, you can use something like Blender to sort of model. Yes, but you can see the whole sphere on Earth. Yeah, in Google Earth you can see the sphere, but the tiles of it I think are in 2D. The way it's rendered, I'm not really sure exactly how they do it. I mean, they've done it. That's how they traditionally did it, but you can zoom out to see the globe. But I'm not sure exactly how they're building that projection. I'm not sure if it's true 3D or they're tricks that you can use to, build a sort of a 2D representation and have three-dimensional information in it. So that's another thing too, is that you have, if you have depth information, you can do a lot of tricks. Yeah, there's Google Mars, there's I think Google Venus, Google Moon. They've done a lot of different planets, and it's just the information from like space probes that they've mapped the different parts of the planet. Actually, that might be a good presentation for another week, is to show how those kind of models actually work. Because I'm not up to date on the state of the art on that. And if anyone wants to volunteer on that, we could talk more about how to do, and maybe how to do it, like in terms of these data, but also how that's done in, like, when you have a lot of information, not just, like a surface, maybe with some relief information. Well, that's what they're using. But, to be able to integrate that more effectively than a two-dimensional representation. Because we have, we can put this, say, online or something, and you can have, a lot of different ways to render it. You can basically use three-dimensional modeling tools like Blender or something more sophisticated to get some information out of it. So, I mean, those are the data. I just wanted to give you some idea of what's going on there. Okay, so Ujjwal has a link to the Curiosity probe. Yeah, so that's okay. Yeah, so those are the data. So I wanted to show you a little bit of what we have, and then maybe we'll be working on it in future weeks. Maybe someone can present on this, and we can kind of come up with a good plan forward.
That would be really nice.
Yeah, I know, and it's something I think we could turn into a tool, put on, because we have our DevoZoo and we have our machine learning tool that we have now, which is going to be updated this summer, to just improved upon this summer, and so maybe we can integrate that into the set of tools.
And I can try to get some more data from embryos.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be good. Once we have a good methodology down for how to project this stuff, it would be better. One neat movie would be Google Embryo with one cell kept in the middle of the screen. Yeah, we could do that. We could anchor it. So that, I mean, there are a lot of ideas here. Why don't we come up, maybe next meeting we can revisit this and come up with some ideas of how to do this. And it's going to be like, there are going to be two categories. There's going to be what we'd love to see, and then maybe what's technologically feasible, in not like 3-year period, but like something that we can do. And then, if we can integrate things like machine learning into it, that would be great too, if that's, something that's possible. This is a Curiosity rover. So this is this is a virtual simulation of it. So they're taking images of Mars on the surface of Mars. This is cool, Ujjwal. Thank you. He's got it in the chat. So I was going to present a paper, but I'm not going to be able to have time today. I wanted to say one more thing before we go, and that is that I'm headed off to this organizational meeting. This is BrainWeb. This is a new collaboration that this group is putting on, their European group. And I've been talking with them about different things. I met them at two conferences this spring, virtual conferences, and they have this nice site, and it's a collaboration site. So what you can do is you can attend their events. They have these hackathons that happen every 3 weeks. They have this community. So if you go to the community tab, you can join this network of researchers. And there's some people from OpenWorm in this network. So this isn't just a small group of people. So this is the brainweb. These are neuroscience people, but there are other people as well, or a lot of people here. If you join and you register and you put some tabs as to your interests, you can join this network, and it's classified by these tags. So there's a lot of experience in neuroimaging, but also in other areas of neuroscience, and there's overlap with development, I guess. People doing microscopy and imaging of different types. So and also open programming, open science. So there's a lot of stuff there, and then of course they have projects that are ongoing. So they're collaborations that they have calls for. They don't have any. Oh, they have a couple listed now, and these are like GitHub repositories that they can link to. So that's the thing I'm headed off to next. I invite you to join in if you want, or if this is something you're interested, we can talk about more as well. And so I think that's it for this week. We're at the top of the hour. Next week I'll present these papers that I was going to present this week. And maybe we'll talk more about the axolotl embryo, how to proceed on the analysis. We can talk, and then if you have anything else you want to bring up, please bring it up. I know Tom and Jesse are interested in education. Maybe you can we can discuss that a little bit more, or anything else that you'd like to. So.
Well, I'm basically a teacher.
Oh, is that?
I'm a teacher. I said I taught for 11 years at the college here,
Yeah.
so I have some experience.
Yeah, we can talk about that we can have a more formal conversation about it. So maybe we can get some feedback. Please, if you want to visit, I can send you some links offline, and we can talk about it more as we go along. So.
Okay, and I'm also trying to get images of the interior of the salamanders as well, the eggs. So hopefully we'll come up with some interior images to go with the exterior.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. I mean, we'd have it would influence how we would, have our representation, but I think that would be excellent information. So, okay, this is the Google embryo paper that Dick published about 11 years ago. So this is the paper, Google Embryo for Building Quantitative Understanding of an Embryo as it Builds Itself. And so this is the thing that they had. It's in the chat here. I can download it. I can send it out to the group in an email. So then you can understand a little bit of what this has been a vision that's been going on for over 10 years. But we'll see, maybe this is the data set that makes it happen. So we'll see. Okay. Thanks for attending. Talk to you guys later. Have a good week.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Be safe.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks.